Hey guys, I'm back here again, continuing with the React Fiber series. I was starting previously, so we're at the point where everything is set up. In the last video I created the create element function above, and now successfully we can compile JSX into React objects, so that's what happens. If we gonna have a look at the code, so I only have div like a JSX within a string inside it, and we have a reacting scope, and that React is not like the normal React, it's just only our create React element. So yeah, that's it, and we can see that it's actually React elements as objects which has only types and props. Good. So now comes the hard part. I thought about it a lot, how to proceed from this point, and there's a lot of obstacles that we need to overcome. Mainly that there are a lot of things that are missing to just get things together, like from the point of where you define your JSX to the point where it actually get painted to the underlying structure, which is in our case is DOM, the DOM object model on the browser. So the thing is that like we have React elements which will be like fibers, which is just a data structure. Right? React elements is a data structure which has type and props. Fiber is a data structure which has types and props and a lot of other things. And fibers cannot really be, I mean, it can be accessed from your code as a developer when you write React code, but it definitely not I wouldn't say advisable, because you can read it, it's just you don't need it. Fiber is definitely for the React algorithm to determine what changes it needs to make. And fiber, based on the fiber data structure, we will have our effects, and that's the point where I would say React ends, and that's basically like the virtual DOM, because all the calculations, the changes haven't really touched the actual DOM API, and that's like a virtual DOM, because everything is like an abstraction over it. And then we can have like this really strange way to like express how I like to think about React and virtual DOM, but that's where React ends, and then comes the React renderers. One of them is being React DOM, and it will takes the effects and it paints to the browser. So we have a rendering phase and we have a painting phase, some sort. I'm not gonna make this distinction in this series because it's just gonna make things even more complicated. So we're just gonna do the rendering, and then we do the painting, which is yeah, I mean, this is just DOM elements. So basically what we're gonna do is get from JSX to DOM elements and make the algorithm to be able to spot the necessary changes. Okay, so actually it's pretty hard to get started because there are so many things that needs to be done. But I'm actually gonna start with the other way around, which is JSX. So we have JSX, which is nothing like HTML, except it looks like HTML. JavaScript does all the everything will happen through JavaScript. So let's have a recap on how we can do things. So if you remember the React API, you have something like React DOM.render, and there you have your JSX, yeah, like this, and then you can have your initial, not initial, like your root element, which must be a DOM element, and in our case it's root. It's provided, if you don't remember, it's provided by the server. So the server gets back an HTML template which has a div, and we can see that here. So we can grab this root element with that piece of code, and React API looks something like this, that you can render all the JSX into this root, and within this root the thing's gonna be directed by React. But actually we can get this out of here and give it a name, and we can console log this out. So here are our root element. Okay, so to achieve the same thing as we have here, this div, we can do div equals document create element, like a div. If you don't know these things, then just look it up on MDN. They are, I mean, I'm no expert on the document API, but these are just pretty basic things. And if you want to render a string, that you can do the same thing. It's just it's a slightly different call, but also on the document object. It's create text node with the text itself, which is in our case text. Okay, so these are just objects. They're not being appended to the to the DOM. You need to specify where to inject it to. In our case, it's gonna be root append child div, but beforehand, I just wanna do div append child text. So with this, if you just think about it, we're gonna achieve the same structure as we specified by the JSX. So if I refresh it, there you have it. So we want to generalize this because we don't really want to write down these every time. So when we will have our instructions in the form of effects at the end of the rendering phase, we want to start painting things, and we want to generalize the painting into function. So one way to do this is const create element. Element will be, okay, so all we need to do that is we need to have the types and we need to have the props. And just remember that here happens the painting, so the painting will not gonna be interacting with the React elements. So I'm just saying that because React elements have the types and the props, but the painting will be interacting with the fibers, but the fiber will have the same fields, so every fiber will have the corresponding types and props of the same element, so they're just gonna be basically copied over. So what I can say is I can have the fiber and I can destructure the fiber because they will have the type and the props on them later on, and fortunately the elements have the types and props. So for testing the create element, we can just put element here because elements have the same fields, but later on we will pass fibers onto it. So what we can do is we have the type, as you can see here, type div, and here the type is text element, and pretty much basically that's the only exception. So what we can do here is if type equal text element, then return text node. So that's a different function, but instead of hard coding the text, we will have props node value, as you can see here, props node value equal text. And this is all coming from the create element function, which Babel uses to transpile things. Node value. Okay, so that's one thing, but if everything goes well and it's not a text element, we just simply want to return document create element. Instead of hard coding it, we just put it in type here. So now what we can do is we can actually get rid of the console here and save it into an element. And now I can put element to this function. Let's actually change this div to create element. I don't need to find this. So actually create element and element. So this element is a div, as you remember here. So I just put create element and I expect the same structure to be given back, which is not create element and not yeah, I need to define this somewhere. Type is not type type, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I got back the same thing, and if you check the elements, the DOM structure, it's pretty much the same thing. Okay. So that works. I expect if I pass create element, so element dot props dot children, if you remember the structure, and the text was the children 0th element. So yeah, everything is the same if I swap the function. So it works perfectly like our create element stuff. The only problem is that it can have props, right? So it's never gonna be just same divs, because you will use React for much more complicated things than just simply rendering JSX as expecting it to spit it out the same HTML. So what we need to do is, if you, where is our, so most of the time you will end up with like style, text align, not text, let's do something more visible. Back, is it background color? Oh, sorry. I'm absolutely suck at this. Background color MDN. Yeah, it's a CSS prop, but I don't want the CSS prop. I want the, maybe VS Code can do that. Okay, not style, not background. Yeah, power of VS Code. Okay, yeah, I should know that, right? Anyways. Okay, so you can do things like this. Also, you can do on-click handlers. So you can have the event, and you can console and log the event out. Sweet. So you expect these things to be working when working with React, and we need to implement these things. So these are our props, and like event listeners. So what we need to take care of is not here, but we need to take care of event listeners, styles, children's. I will explain it later. So children, like later is now. So children are props, but we can't attach children, neither we wanna, like determining the structure of the fibers are not part of the painting process, it's part of the rendering process. When you have child or children, you just want to get rid of it. You only want to attach to the DOM elements to what's not a children, so just want to get rid of them. Also, it's worth noting that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach every event listeners individually to given DOM element, which is absolutely not what React does. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna stick with this solution, and later on we might implement something similar to React's approach to listening, normalizing, and dispatching certain events to certain elements. But for now, I'm gonna individually attach everything. So that's what we need to take care of. So let's dig into this and how it's gonna look like. So first, we wanna filter event listeners. Okay, so the way to do that is we need to grab all the names of the props, and since props is not an array, the easiest way in the absence of any helper library is object keys, which will give us an array, right? So the outcome will be, in the case of this element, style and And now with this we can start working on. So now you can filter out the events. The way to do it is we can go create a function is event listener, which will take a prop, and we can do, so these are strings, so on strings you can have the starts with function and starts with on, and we can be pretty sure that it's an event listener. So this event listener can be passed here, and now we can create a side effect which will actually attach the event listener. So the way to do that is okay, so we need the underlying element, which I'm actually gonna call state node, because that's gonna be the name when we were working fibers. It just ignore it now. It's just it's basically DOM elements now. And the other thing we need is the props. So what we're gonna do is have the prop, and now we can have the state node, which is a DOM element, add the event listener onto it. And remember that there is a discrepancy between the naming convention. So the DOM elements you have click, whereas in React you have on click. So we need to convert between the two, and the way to do that is prop as a string. You have substring. So get it from the second index. So now you are at the point where on click became click. All you need to do is lowercase it, and the way to do that is to lowercase. And now you need to attach the function, which is props at prop. So now you can add the event listener with the state node, but you don't have the state node actually, because it's not created at this point, so we need to change the order. So const element, and you need to pass the element here and also the props. Okay, so I hope it's oops, it makes sense what I'm doing here. So we're filtering out the event listeners, so whatever gets here is an event listener. And what I'm saying is I'm putting the element and the props, and it knows that it's gonna iterate through all the event listeners, and it says that okay, for every one of them, just convert the React convention to DOM convention name and find the event listener on the props object. Let's see if it works or not. And it works. So here we have the mouse event. Okay, so the props are or the event listeners are kind of done. The next step is have the styles. So the style is an object with its own fields. So okay, let's do this like this. So let styles equals prop dot style, or if it doesn't exist, just an empty object. And what we want to do is we want to create a style name. So object style object keys style for each style name. Let's just do it with an impure manner for now. I'm gonna grab the element dot style at style name is gonna equal prop so dot style and equals style dot style name. It's quite far-fetched. Yeah, it doesn't even work. Just give me a sec. So style is here. Okay, so we have the element, we put in it here, and we're saying this style at style name. Yeah, let's just console it out. A little debugging sesh background color red. So it picks it up, which is good. So we have background color here. So I'm saying that element style background color should be background color, right? So console log style name. Yeah, background color. So it's there. So element style should equal yeah, sorry, it's like Jesus. Okay, now it's working. Okay, yeah, that's quite embarrassing mistake. So what's happening here is we don't want it to throw an error if no style has been specified. So if I leave that out, it's gonna work now, but it's gonna throw an error if I get rid of the style. Yeah, because there is no object here, it's undefined. Okay, and what we're doing here is simply grabbing the style name and attaching to the appropriate style name with the appropriate value for the given element. We can actually create a function with the same state node pattern. I think it's gonna work. If I get rid of the state node props instead of props, I'm gonna put style. Okay. No, it doesn't. So I put it style there. Okay. Okay, yeah, good thing. Okay, so that's for now, and I'm gonna continue with getting rid of the children and wrapping it up in the next video. Thank you. See you guys.